Well, here I am in the Azure portal where I can manage all of my Azure resources. And in this case, I'm going to manage my Azure Storage account. So I've got a storage account here called DAT228X Store, and we'll go and take a look at that. And I can see some details about that storage account. So now storage accounts can be used to store a number of different things, and we're really going to focus on storing blobs. So that's the main type of thing we're going to be storing. We'll upload our local files and they'll be stored as blobs in the storage account. There are various other options as well. Now, some other things to know about the storage account. We have this concept of access keys. So at the moment, I'm logged into my Azure portal. You can see I'm logged in using my Microsoft credentials. So I can access that using those credentials. If I wasn't logged in using that, I could use these access keys that have been generated to securely access my storage from my client application. So I would specify the key, and that allows me to authenticate. And I could also, as a third option, generate shared access signatures that allow client applications restricted access to different resources within my Azure storage. So there's a number of different ways that I can secure access to my Azure storage account. In this case, I'm just logged in using my Microsoft credentials into the portal. So I can go straight into the blobs tile there, and I can see that there is a container here called my blobs. Now I had to create that. I can create that just by adding a container, but all of my blobs will be stored in these containers. So you can think of these as being effectively the sort of root storage containers for your files, a little bit like volumes, disk volumes that you might see in your local hard disk. So I've got this this container called my blobs. There currently aren't any blobs in there. But what I can do from here is I can go ahead and I can upload files. So I can go and select a file from my local file system. And I'll just take this file here called products. And you can see it listed there. There are various different types of blob. In this case, I'm going to upload it as a block blob. So it's going to be split into these 100 megabyte blocks to make it easier, more efficient to transfer across the network. And it's a very small file in this case, so it uploads pretty much instantaneously. And I can see that that now is stored in my storage account in my blob container. And I could go ahead and click that blob, and I could download that as a file back down to my machine, and I can see the URL that's used to connect to that over the internet. So what I've got here in the portal is a very rudimentary interface for working with my blob storage. Now I can't do anything complicated like create folders or organize the structure of the blobs, but I can just simply upload and download files to that blob store from within here. Now, what I might want is a more complicated or at least more complex environment to work in, and I can do that using this tool called Azure Storage Explorer. Now, Azure Storage Explorer is a free tool. It's available for Windows or for Linux or for Mac, so you can install it on any of those platforms. And what you'll do once you've installed it is you will connect to your blob store. And I can do it using any of those three methods that we talked about earlier on. I could add my Azure account, just log in using my credentials, or I could specify a shared access signature, or I could specify a storage account name and the key that goes with that storage account. Now in this case, I've already added my Azure account. I can actually see that that account is already added into the tool there. So I can see all the subscriptions from that account, and that means that I can go and browse into my Azure subscription. I can see the storage accounts that are in there. There's my DAT228X store, and there's my blobs container. And if I look at that, I can see there's the products file that I just uploaded. And I could upload files from here as well. But as well as uploading individual files, I can actually upload folders. So I can go and browse for a folder. There's a folder called data. We'll just go and upload that. And again, it's going to upload that as a block blob. And I can specify the name of the folder that I want to upload it to. And it's by default taking the same name as the folder I'm uploading, but I could specify a different name, or indeed I could specify a complete path of folders, a complete hierarchy of where I want to upload it. So we'll go ahead and upload that. I get the status appearing at the bottom. Again, it happens fairly quickly in this case because the files are pretty small. And I can see there's that data folder. And if I go and double click on that, I can see the different files that are in there. So I've got a couple of files in here, and if I go back up to the root folder, I've still got my products file that I uploaded previously. And what I might do is I might select that products folder and go ahead and copy that, and then I can go into my data folder and I could paste that. So I can copy and paste to copy files around the different folder hierarchy. And if I go back up to the root there, I don't need this copy anymore, so I could go ahead and delete that. And I'm able to manage my files in my file storage using this tool. So it's a more capable tool than just using the browser portal interface that I've got. Now, if you're used to developing applications and you're working with Azure in Visual Studio, then again, in your Visual Studio environment, you can use the Cloud Explorer to connect to your Azure Storage, to your Azure subscription, and then I can see my storage accounts that I've got, and I can go and expand into that blob containers and open that up. And again, there's my data folder and there are my files. So I can manage those from within the Visual Studio environment if you're used to working with Visual Studio. So there are a whole range of tools out there that you can use to work with Azure Blob Storage. I've shown you some of the more useful and easy to use graphical tools here, but there's a command line interface that you could use. You could use PowerShell. There are a whole bunch of other tools out there, and it's really up to you which you want to use. But you are at some point going to have some way of connecting to your storage account and managing the files that you want to store there.